Hello everyone, I hope you've all had a great start to your holiday season. Like last month and all future monthly videos I'm going to record, this video is specifically going to talk about the freehold market in West Toronto. Now occasionally I may dabble and talk about the broader market conditions or even touch on condos a little bit, but for the most part I want to focus on our local neighborhoods and speak about the freehold market in West Toronto. If you're watching this video and you're looking for information outside of West Toronto or for condos specifically, just reach out to me directly and we can have that conversation. As far as I know, there are no other online resources that provide data specific to freehold homes in West Toronto, so I hope you get value out of these videos talking about our neighborhoods. So let's talk about November. For the most part, November reflected very much like what happened in October. Home sales were way up. The sales volume in November of this year was increased by 50% over November of last year. Now keep in mind that there was a pretty low base to work off of. If you look at both November 2022 and November 2023, out of the last 10 years, those two Novembers had the lowest sales volumes in any November for those past 10 years. So we're working off a small base, but nonetheless, sales volume was up 50% this November. Year to date, the sales volume is up just over 12%. Now, the new listings in November of this year were almost identical to November of last year. This year, there was 365 new listings in November, and last year there was 363 new listings. Active listings increased by 22% this November compared to November of last year. But because sales volume increased so much, the market conditions actually tightened and the home prices have increased over that period. As a result, the sales to new listing ratio also increased. In November of this year, the sales to new listing ratio was 50.1%, which is higher than it had been for all of Q2 and Q3 of this year. And so, with an increase in the sales to new listing ratio and an increase in sales volume, that usually translates to an increase in the average sale price, and that was the case. In November of this year, the average home price was about $1.650 million, which was up 15% compared to November of last year. However, again, that comes from a pretty small data set, so you should take it with a grain of salt. If we look at the year-to-date average sales price, it's up a more modest 2.8%. So while we are still not seeing market activity like we had seen pre-interest rate hikes in Q2 of 2022, we continue to see an increase in both sales volume as well as the average sales price. And with the strengthening of the sales to new listing ratio, all this indicates the freehold market has stabilized and is feeling quite healthy right now. And so that kind of brings us to, we're towards the end of the year. Typically, December is a pretty quiet month in terms of sales volume. We'll see what happens this December, and I'll report back, of course. At the time of this recording, the Bank of Canada had not yet released their newest interest rate announcement, which will happen on December 11th. By the time you're watching this video, that announcement will have been made, and the expectation is the Bank of Canada will cut rates by a further 50 basis points, at the very least 25 basis points, but most signs are indicating a 50 basis point cut right now as well. So, as we continue to see interest rates on the decline, making homes more affordable, I would expect that we'll see a continuation of what's happened over the last 3 months heading into 2025. We'll see an increase in sales volume year over year. We'll see an increase in average sales price year over year. And if we look back at both 2023 and 2024, that period from January 15th right through kind of until the end of March, that's where we saw the strongest sales volume and sales prices in those 2 years. And then they sort of tapered off as we got into April and May, which is not typical. Usually you have a very busy, an okay start to the year, and then it gets really busy by mid to late March, and that carries through until June. The last 2 years, that wasn't the case. The really busy periods felt like they were January 15th until, March 31st. And, based on the lack of inventory we have right now, as well as the number of buyers who seem to be resurfacing and their confidence increasing, I sort of think that this year will be very similar to the last 2 years in that we'll have a really busy period from January 15th right through to the end of March. And that may continue through April, May this year, as well as interest rates continue to come down and buyer confidence continues to increase. But, stay tuned. I will report back again in a month after December numbers are released. And again, I'll continue to report back throughout the Q1 of next year. But the market seems pretty healthy right now. If you're a seller planning on selling your home, now is the time to start prepping your home so that you're ready to rock once once things start picking up in mid to late January. And if you're a buyer that is still looking, right now is the time to continue to find those homes. There are some deals we had out there still. Inventory is slowly picking up, and there is some good product popping up every once in a while. So if you're in one of those two camps, feel free to reach out to me if you want to talk in more detail. Otherwise, have a very Merry Christmas, a happy holidays to you and your family, and we will talk to you again in the new year. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.